All right, Shalom. This is your brother Nahalia from the GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. The honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yashar Allah, and a sincere salutation to all Yuakim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word, in all truth and in sincerity. This is Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16. And it reads, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." In the NLT it reads, "He required everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to be given a mark on the right hand or on the forehead, and no one could buy or sell anything without that mark, which was either the name of the beast or the number representing his name." Now, we understand through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemal Shai that the MOTB, all right, is the CHIP, all right? Read between the lines. For those that know, all right, you know. For those that don't, you know, through the spirit, it is the RFID CHIP, okay? Now, I want to go into this lesson on this article, all right? This lesson is inspired by this article, and it says central banks' currencies are coming whether we want them or not. Should you be worried about CBDCs? Okay, now I'm going to read some of this article. Lord willing, this is edifying, and I'll just start at the top. All right, it says, in countries around the world, central bank digital currencies are poised to change the way average citizens use money. In the coming decade, billions of people are likely to use CBDCs, a new type of currency run on a centralized ledger, to do everything from pay taxes, to buy groceries, to receive welfare checks. Now, before I continue into this article, you know, I just did a quick search of digital currencies. All right. And when you look at it, look at all these articles. All right. It talks about the UAE. OK, which I believe, let me just get the name of the UAE. All right. I believe it's Dubai, but I could be wrong. All right. But they're adopting a digital currency. OK, and it shows you that everybody is in tune with this, because when you deal with Moab, all right, the Chinese, they're already basically a cashless society for the most part. All right. And they're using a digital form of currency. Now, the difference is that the central banks are going to start issuing out currencies, and they're going to have a ledger. All right. When you deal with Bitcoin, it's considered a public ledger, meaning anybody can have access to view the transactions. What the central banks are going to have is a private ledger, meaning you don't have access to view the different wallets and their transactions, but the government does. All right. And keep in mind that these digital currencies are also programmable money. OK, and what that means is that if they decide that you can't purchase something, then they can program your money to not be able to purchase it. All right. So you have a lot of camps, all right, that are saying that the MOTB is something other than the CHIP. But look at where the world is headed. All right. Because the scriptures talk about it making small and great, rich and poor. All right. Free and bond to receive this. All right. So this has to be something that's going to be mandatory for everyone across the planet. All right. And it's considered an hour of temptation. The flavor of the week saying that MOTB is sin. All right. That's always been around. It wouldn't be an hour of temptation if it was sin itself. OK. Now, let's continue in this article, because I wanted to just show and point out that all these countries are starting to get more and more in tune with this system, and they're starting to transition their own countries into this system. Their own citizens are getting adopted to this system. All right. It says the Central Bank of the United Arab Emirates. All right. So the United Arab Emirates are also being involved with these CBDCs. All right. Because this is going to be a global thing. It's not going to be secluded to the West or to the United States. Now, I want to go back to the article, all right, at hand. And Lord willing, I'll be able to put the article in the description. All right, so let's continue. It says, once seen as a technology of the future, CBDCs, along with other digital payment innovations, garnered new attention during the pandemic as governments explored how they might better exchange money with banks and consumers. But unlike Bitcoin and other private cryptocurrencies that promote ideals of decentralization, CBDCs are intended to leave the state very much in control. All right. And what does that remind you of? Let's go here. All right. This is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 2. It says, "For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape." And why do I bring this out? Because really a lot of the arguments that Esau puts out in the mainstream media about this change, so to speak, is efficiency. All right. Your money is safe through these channels. All right. This is how we can have peace, because, again, people won't be able to rob you if you have the CHIP within your members. All right. If it's inside of your body, people can't rob you and shake you down for your wallet, so to speak. All right. So they're using this garner of safety, all right, of peace, of security, all of these things to implement a system where they have more control over you instead of less. OK, now let's continue. It says already the U.S. is moving forward with the test of CBDCs. The U.K. is hiring a head of central bank digital currency and testing out a digital pound. And China has launched its version of CBDCs in the real world. We are closer than ever to a world of centralized digital currencies, reshaping the financial sector. This raises the question of whether we are entering a new era of financial efficiency, or, as critics fear, one of dystopian surveillance. All right. And a lot of times these kind of articles come out to comfort people who are on the fence, so to speak, by assuring them that this is peace and safety, by assuring them that these things that are coming upon the earth is for their benefit. That's how they're going to sell it. All right. This is why when you go into Revelation, the 13th chapter, and you start up, it says this, verse 15, "And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed." All right, because they're going to paint this picture like this is the world that we need. This is the system that we need in the world today to move forward. And anybody who's against it is impeding progress. They're stopping the world from moving forward. And that's how they're going to create this narrative and demonize those who are against this. All right, chiefly the elect. Lord willing, we be a part of that number. All right. So what you can already see in the world through these articles, because these articles are a telltale sign. A lot of these reporters are bought and paid for, and they're paid to push a narrative. All right. But again, you're starting to see this globally. All right. Even with China, as much as you see in the news, China and America being at odds, they have one thing in common, and that's this adoption of this system. All right. So real quick, I just want to get this on China. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 15 and verse 46. "And thou, Asia, that art partaker of the hope of Babylon, and art the glory of her person, woe be unto thee, thou wretch, because thou hast made thyself like unto her, and hast decked thy daughters in whoredom, that they might please and glory in thy lovers, which have always desired to commit whoredom with thee. Thou hast followed her that is hated, and all her works and inventions. Therefore, saith Yahweh Shema Shai, I will send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence, to waste thy houses with destruction and death." Because what you notice that even on paper, as the Chinese and the Americans are at odds, they have one thing in common, one of many, but one main thing in common is that they're both pushing this system. And they're more ahead in this system and transitioning their culture into this system than America is. But they all have that one goal. And that's why we understand through the spirit that all of this is really performance, if you will. Now, of course, there is going to be a third world war. But in the midst of this and all of these things that are happening, there's a push to create a global system. All right. A global system. It's not just financial, but it's being established. All right. For more control. All right. For control of many by a few. All right. And that's the elites of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. They are the ones who are funding, and they are the source of this system. All right. That they're pushing out and they're implementing. And this is how we understand that there's going to be the MOTB. All right, that the MOTB is the CHIP, because this is one of the vehicles that they're going to be able to use, all right, to control many people. All right, continuing on the article, it says this. What is a CBDC and who is creating them? A CBDC is a new form of digital currency created, issued, and controlled by a central bank such as the Federal Reserve. Digital payments we use today, i.e. Venmo, Cash App, etc., are typically a liability of the institution providing the account, often utilizing commercial banks, whereas CBDCs are directly a liability of the central bank, not too dissimilar from physical cash. However, unlike cash, CBDCs equip the central bank with more direct tools to monitor and control the economy. It is helpful to realize in discussions of CBDCs, there are two proposed uses, retail and wholesale. The latter is simply an improvement on the current system that enables banks to send money to each other, which shouldn't affect the average citizen much. On the other hand, CBDCs, in the case of retail, entail ordinary consumers interacting directly with a central bank ledger to conduct everyday transactions. And this is how they're going to be able to track every dollar and cent that moves in and out of their economy. All right, when you look at it and you understand this type of system from the bird's eye view, it's easy to see that this is this is what the Lord told us about, that this would happen in the end days. This would be the hour of temptation, because they're going to lock anybody else who doesn't submit into this system. They're going to lock them out of the system. All right, now I want to jump down to a point that's made in this. All right, let's jump down to here. It says, nonetheless, 114 countries, which represents 95% of global GDP, are exploring a CBDC. Of those 114, 57% are in the research or development stage, 16% are piloting, and 10% have launched a CBDC. While the US and Europe are still exploring the potential deployment of CBDCs, China and India have already deployed their own versions in the real economy, while Nigeria and Jamaica have likewise launched projects. All right, and that shows you that all of the nations are in cahoots as far as this system is concerned. All right, you look at the opposites of the spectrum. You got Nigeria and Jamaica; they've already launched it. You got China; they've launched it. And then it tells you that 95% of the global GDP, which is most of the developed countries, all right, are already either discussing it, planning it, or launching it. OK, now continuing, it says this. The reason we are seeing diverging approaches on CBDCs is due to each country considering its own unique country context, economic model, and social constructs when seeking to advance a CBDC, said Gabriela Cruz, CEO of the Global Digital Asset and Cryptocurrency Association. While each country has its unique societal challenges, every major power wants to at least dip its toes into the waters of digital currency due to the fear of being left behind. All right, now I want to jump here because this is the points. The idea of central banks using programmable currency to flex control over how citizens spend their money feels dystopian, but not all CBDCs will have such limitless capabilities. John McCollum is at the forefront of efforts to create a CBDC in the U.S. as chair of the Federal Government Relations of David Doff, Hutcher, and Citron. McCollum works closely with members of Congress to help amend federal laws for America to move towards a safe digital currency. It says this: privacy is a primary concern here in the U.S., McCollum told Fortune. I think a lot of those things are really spelled out in our financial laws. There are protections for individuals that need to be transferred if we move forward to a digital form of money. He specifically points to the protections laid out in the Privacy Act of 1974 and the Federal Information Security Management Act of 2002 to be applied to digital currency. People don't want the government to look at their banking information and their transactions. McCollum said, I think that it's important that we use intermediaries so a CBDC would function in the same way that cash does through commercial banks and different payment providers. So again, this is an attempt to sell it. All right. And they're pushing it that it's convenience. And this is why most people are going to take it, because it's being pushed as a means of convenience. But it really is a means of control. All right. Continuing, it says, let me just jump down. All right, here's the point. CBDCs have the potential to escalate privacy, control, and tech adoption issues, but there are workarounds for it. The technology isn't inherently evil, but do we trust our central banks to not take advantage of this opportunity? To me, there's a question of who should be making the decisions about currency. And historically, people made pretty independent decisions about what currencies to use. All right, but we're not coming into a time where they're going to have that freedom of thought. All right. And this is why the control of the money, all right, which is a intermediary for resources, is paramount. It's important. You think about warfare. Esau is basically using this system to control resources, and being able to control resources means you can control the people by default. All right. This is why the scriptures talk about free and bond, small and great, rich and poor. Why? Because it's about control. It's not necessarily about peace and safety. This is why they would desire to have everybody have this device in them. All right. Because it's not just going to act as a form of currency. When you deal with the digital currency, when you deal with the CHIP, it's also going to be identification. All right. It's going to be a way to geolocate you, know your location at all times, track your transactions, track where you've been. All of these things are going to be a matter. It's going to be sold as convenience, but under it is control. And articles like this, it brings out good information, but at the same time, you can see how they lean towards a bias to accept this. And that's going to be the nature of where this system goes. So many people are going to be convinced that this is the way, that anybody who's against it is going to be looked at as a rebel, so to speak. All right, as a threat to progress. And that's going to equal up to the hour of temptation. All right. Now, that's it on this article. But again, I want to touch this through the spirit, because when you look at this article and then you look at what's going on across the planet concerning digital currencies, all right, you can see that it's global. All right, here's another article that says this. I'll just read the headline. Bidget partners with Capital to participate in Brazil CBDC project. All right, so we've heard a number of countries. We've heard Jamaica. We've heard Nigeria. We're looking at Brazil, the United Arab Emirates. All right, all of these countries are adopting this in the midst of a growing separation between nations. This is one thing that they have in common, which shows you that there's a common thread between all these countries. And those central banks are a key component of that, because those central banks are really private companies. And all of this goes back to a source, because at the end of the day, the ultimate decision is going to be, do you believe in Yahweh Shemel Shai, or do you believe in the so-called white man, who is Satan's tool on earth, so to speak? All right. And that's going to be the separation. Who are you more committed to? Yahweh Shemel Shai or the so-called white man? And that digital all, that MOTB is going to be the discerner. Okay, this is why the scriptures say this in Revelation. All right, this is Revelation chapter 3 and verse 10. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. So we understand that this is going to be an hour of temptation. And when you look at where the world is going, there's no embargo act being discussed concerning the MOTB. When you say it's sin, it doesn't make this the hour of temptation, because sin has always been here. So this wouldn't be an hour of temptation if sin is the MOTB. All right. And this is how we understand through the spirit, by filtering things through the scriptures. We understand the MOTB is the CHIP, man. All right. And when you look at articles like this, they present everybody's fear about these things. And then they try to comfort people by pushing this narrative of convenience, of peace, and of safety. All right. But we understand we're not ignorant of Satan's devices. All right. Matter of fact, This is 2 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 11. And it reads, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. All right. Because again, we understand that Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, is the wicked on earth. All right. And they're going to be instrumental in trying to push this system of control. All right. This is Esau's attempt to be like God, not through the MOTB being sin. This is going to give him the ability to control people and set his heart as the heart of God. All right. This is why context is so important. All right. But I want to go into that through the spirit because, again, one day closer, one step closer. All right. And again, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah, for those who don't know. All right. The MOTB is the RFID CHIP, which will be required to be placed inside of your body. All right. Lord willing, this was edifying. With that, I'll say shalom.